Welcome to DIYEasyCrafts.com. Today we're going to take a look at making an ocean wave themed epoxy resin fishing rod in our fishing rod building tutorial. So this is the rod that I ended up with. I'm going to call it an ocean wave epoxy resin fishing rod marbling technique. I've done a lot of ocean waves in the past, resin ocean waves. If you go to my website, DIYEasyCrafts.com, and just click on coastal living and then ocean wave, you'll see that I've done a lot of these, and most of them have been cutting boards. I did custom knife handles for a knife that I made. I did drink coasters, a picture frame with an ocean wave on the glass, even a wall hanging clock. But they were all done on a flat surface. This is the very first time I'm going to attempt it on a cylinder, on a fishing rod. So kind of keeping my fingers crossed. I'm going to use Makerpoxy. This is a 1-to-1 mix resin that I got from TotalBoat.com. I broke it into a dark blue, a light blue, a green, a clear, and a white. And I just used dyes that you can get on Etsy. I didn't make this fishing rod. This is a rod that I had in the garage. So I'm going to coat over the existing label that was on the base of this rod with the dark blue. That's going to be my foundation or my base. I'm not waiting for that to dry. All I did was give it a good coating. I've got this in my rod drying rack, which means that it's just going to turn constantly and prevent this resin from really dripping off. I'm then going to add the lighter blue up towards the front, and I'm going to add some color throughout, just a few spots. You can always go back and modify. You can always go back and add some more of the lighter colors. I'm then going to add a little bit of green, but you can use whatever colors you like. You could just do variations of blue, or you could add in some green. And again, where I added the light blue into the dark background, I'm also going to add a little hint of the green. Now, very important, before you add the white, you want to add some clear. The white needs to flow into and with that clear over the existing colors. And with the white, you want to be less is more. You don't want to put too much on. You can always go back and add. But just put a little bit of white wherever you want it, just before the clear. As I mentioned before, it has to kind of flow into that clear resin. Now this is the technique. On a cutting board, I would just use a hair dryer to blow the epoxy resin around. But for something like this, I'm going to use a straw. Or in this case, I actually used the outer casing of a big pen. And this allowed me to really control, how much wind, hot air that I'm blowing on it, and move that white around until it, I like the design. Now, because this resin is turning on a rod drying rack, my fear is that overnight, the resin's just going to run into each other. I did use a hair dryer just to warm it up. I don't really want to blow the resin around too much, just to warm it up. The heat helps you generate the cell structure, especially in the white area of the waves. So now I'm going to keep my fingers crossed and let this dry overnight. Actually, I think I let it dry for a full 24 hours. And I was very surprised that resin did not seem to merge into, one color did not seem to merge into the other. It basically remained exactly the way, I blew out the design. So the final step here is going to be using a clear coat called Pro Coat. And I got this from mudhole.com. And this is what you use to coat your thread guides, etc. It's a nice clear resin, 1-to-1 ratio. Mix it for 5 minutes slow. You do want to add a little bit of heat afterwards just to get rid of any bubbles that might be in the mix. I use a heat gun for that. You don't want to add a lot of heat. You don't want to do any damage. Just lightly go over it. It thins out the resin and gets rid of any air bubbles. I let that dry for 24 hours, and this is the finished product. I was very happy with it. It's kind of a unique look. I don't think very many other fishing poles are going to look like this when you're out on the boats. And that's kind of what I was going for. I want to make it easy to pick out my rod when it's in a rack of a bunch of others. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, I ask that you please, take a minute and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this YouTube channel. I would absolutely love it if you left a comment in the comments section. By all means, check us out on the web at DIYeasycrafts.com. I've got a whole bunch of different nautical-related do-it-yourself and fishing-related do-it-yourself projects on there. Thank you very much for watching.